really going to, as a club owner or a board member, committee member, are you going to trust, somebody who's not been through the construction process with that type of budget? I mean, it really doesn't make any sense. You've got to have somebody who really understands the process. And you have to understand these budgets. There might be 5 or 6 budgets. There's a golf course budget. There's a fertility and a growing budget. There's an irrigation budget. There's a soft cost budget. There's contingencies. There's budgets for erosion control and permitting. Like, just because you've got a set of plans and a set of quantities doesn't mean that that's your project.
Welcome to Leadership on the Links, the podcast that showcases innovators in golf course management and the issues they face. I'm your host, Tyler Bloom. In Leadership on the Links, you hear the stories of people shaping the industry from their first swing to their dream match. You feel like you're on the course playing with your most inspiring colleagues, having great conversations, digging into insights and sharing a few laughs. Our industry is changing. As a leader, you need to keep up on everything from trends to technology to best practices. Together, we'll continue to build world-class clubs and teams. Let's get to it. Enjoy.
Awesome. Well, I am super excited today to bring a more recent friend and an industry colleague, I guess, over the last year to 2 years, and another entrepreneur in the golf space who is doing some wonderful things. Nick Mazella is here today on the podcast live, and Nick has a real fascinating career in the golf industry from a very different lens than I think maybe your traditional assistant or superintendent. And Nick, I'll kind of give you the floor to sort of give a brief background overview of your career to this point.
Yeah, happy to do it, Tyler. I appreciate you having me here today. I'm looking forward to catching up. I think this will be a fun little session. So, yeah, I have, a bit of a non-traditional pathway to where I am now. I started with aspirations to be a golf course architect. I graduated from Penn State in 1997 with a degree in landscape architecture, and then immediately started my career down in Williamsburg, Virginia, for a environmental engineering firm, which is where I kind of got introduced to the world of permitting and erosion control and all the non-glorious aspects of building and renovating golf courses. And I did that for a few years under great leadership, had some good exposure to golf course construction, but still wanted to explore the design option. At the time, this was in the end of the 90s, there really was not a whole lot of opportunities out there to join a design firm, not like today where there's a different approach. But all the architects I talked to said, go get experience as a contractor. It'll be invaluable. You won't do anything there with a contractor that won't be applicable to your future career in design. So I found my way to Pittsburgh to work for a company called Frontier Golf, and had a great stint with them in the construction industry. After about 2 or 3 years, I quickly realized I had fallen in love with the construction side of the business and that I was less and less interested in design. So I spent about 10 years there at Frontier, traveled extensively across the Eastern U.S. and the Caribbean, and did some very exciting projects there with great people. Took a few years off from the golf business, worked for a mixed-use commercial developer here in Charlotte, land development side, to start a family, and I needed to get off the road for a few years. So that was good, taught me some great things in the art of the deal and what happens in a development project in the full life cycle away from golf, which I think I pulled a lot of those lessons back with me. When I rejoined the industry, did another 10-year stint, this time with Aspen Corporation out of West Virginia, where I was exposed to a lot of great people there. We did a lot of great work together, major championship venues, and really, really kind of enjoyed what I was doing there. So I had been about 22 years in the business, and decided, I still love building and renovating golf courses, but I felt like I wanted a new seat at the table. So I had an idea to launch a consulting business where I would specifically be able to help clients, architects, other colleagues with project management. I felt like I had a unique perspective on it. I had a good handle on things. And I wanted to be able to apply that to the ownership side of the table as opposed to the contractor side. I had formulated a great relationship in my time at Aspen with Keith Wood at Quahala Club in Charlotte. and I had done some work for them prior to the PGA Championship in 2017. And I decided to talk to Keith and kind of run my idea by him about going out on my own. And he said, I think there's a need for that. I think you'll be successful, and we'd love to give you a shot. So right out of the gate, had a wonderful opportunity from Keith and Quahala Club to work with them on a very small project. But that's kind of what got me going, and that was in 2018. And it's been a great ride since. The business model has really kind of stayed the same. It's the industry that I've been very fortunate. The industry has shifted a little, and my niche business is just in the right position to take advantage of that. So here we are in late 2024. I hope that wasn't too much of an intro, but that's how I got to where I am today.
Question that I often get from hiring committees, right, in general, and I'm going to sidetrack a little bit, is the importance of construction work for, their candidates, and how valuable is that, right? And obviously you had that sort of, exposure earlier on. What do you see the value of, getting that hands-on construction experience, whether it's a full-scale renovation, smaller T projects, bunker projects, things of that nature? What are some of the traits you see that people can pull out of that?
Well, it's a great question. I mean, you have to have the exposure. You just have to have the time to understand the process. I mean, it's like learning things from a textbook and then learning them in reality, right? I mean, there's no replacement for actual time in the field and understanding what it takes to make these things happen. Across my career, I've always encouraged people, especially young people, to pursue time on the construction side. It will make you a better designer. It'll make you a better engineer. It'll make you a better builder. It'll whatever path you're on, having been there building with your hands, there's no replacement for that. Even if you're a young person in school and your career path is to become a golf course superintendent, take a year and go work for a golf course contractor, build a golf course, renovate a golf course. It will separate you from the crowd when it's time to explore career opportunities. Now, Tyler, you and I have here recently been fortunate to work on a couple of exciting new projects and place some superintendents in those positions. And you know how important construction experience was in those selections. So, I mean, it's a factor that people look to early and place a lot of emphasis on. So don't think just because you want to be a superintendent or some allied profession that hands-on experience isn't invaluable, because it is.
Yeah. Did you see yourself, kind of transitioning where you have this kind of focus on project management, or was it something that just sort of evolved over time and just found, appreciation and sort of a passion and love for it? Or is it something that you thought really early on, this is where I see myself settling?
Yeah, I didn't think so. I think, when I set out, I actually thought I'd be helping architects a little bit more. I thought that was going to be my path. I knew AutoCAD. I had learned that in Williamsburg, and, I thought that was a great tool to have and could fill in some blanks for architects who were busy. I really didn't see the path going where it did until I got a great opportunity down in Palm Beach Gardens at PGA National about 6 months before, I guess it was 8 months before COVID. And I had been hired by the new owners of the resort to help them manage a $30 million capital improvement project across the 4 golf courses on property. I got that opportunity, and that's when I really started to see a different business model evolving. That's when I really got into team building, really got into interdisciplinary coordination, looking at what it takes to get projects off the ground, because it's become more complex. When I started in this business, you didn't have so many cooks in the kitchen, if you will. We had big design shops and big engineering firms that would handle all disciplines. And now it seems like all disciplines are represented by specialists, and there's a need to compile great teams. I think the scope of what people offer in our business has narrowed a little bit, and everybody's become better because of it. You know this. If you do one thing well, it's better than doing 3 things that are mediocre. So if I can compile a team of 7 people that are all excellent, our project's going to be a success because those people are passionate about what they're being asked to do, and they're not being asked to do any of the things they're not passionate. So that job at PGA was really the first one that kind of opened my eyes to say, gosh, this project management thing, it's project management, but it's almost as much team building as it is. the management side. So that's when I really started to realize I think the business plan that I'd set out with maybe wasn't probably what I was going to end up with. Through the good fortune of some great people and great relationships, the experiment has proved successful thus far.
When you think of some of the emerging trends that you're seeing on the construction side, what are top things that you're currently working at, what you're seeing, what clubs need to be and superintendents need to be thinking about, in the construction world? Give us some insights on that.
Yeah, I think emerging trends from the design side, I would say alternative facilities. Just about every client that I have right now under any level of construction or renovation includes some club amenity that's not a conventional 18-hole golf course. So it's a short course, it's a putting course. There are, and in the private club sector, increasing demand to keep people at the club and give them an alternative to consume golf and not play a 5-hour round of 18 holes. So I think I don't think that's anything new. I don't know if I'd call it emerging, but it's persisting, and clubs need to find other ways for people to consume golf. So that's a trend on the design side. Trends in project management, that's think the idea of dedicated project managers in the golf space is still pretty new. But I will tell you, in several projects that I've had a lot of overlap with vertical construction, project management is a science. The vertical world is completely different than golf. And I'm glad I'm on the golf side. Let's be clear about that. But there are people who make entire careers and industries out of project management for construction. We just haven't seen it in the golf space. And I like to think that myself and Jason Hurwitz, who's on my team, are better prepared to help our clients with that understanding and demonstrate the value in project management in the golf space than anybody. So I guess that's kind of an emerging trend. There's softwares to manage these things. And what you have to understand is, people at clubs who are on boards and on committees who oversee construction or get involved in construction projects are smart people. Many of them come from construction backgrounds themselves. So they have certain expectations of how a project should go, what the life cycle of a project is. What they don't understand is anything about how to build a golf course. And they translate their experiences from the vertical world to golf and think that they're the same, and they're not. As you know, as any superintendent will tell you, and golf course architect or golf course builder will tell you, that the golf course is a living, breathing organism, and it's more art than science. And a lot of people in the construction industry have a very hard time getting their arms around that and realizing that, we have to have built-in latitude. We have to allow for some things to be done and redone because they don't suit the eye properly, or whether water has caused a design direction change. There are a lot of things that just have to feel right in the field, and it's hard for people from the vertical world to understand that. So I think the more project management becomes relevant in the world of golf course construction and development and renovation, I think that's probably one of the things that will continue to be a challenge for anybody in the space.
That's no different than thinking about a person that was recruiting in the agronomy side. What do I need this guy to recruit for our agronomy team? I'm the superintendent, right?
Right.
Not a lot of different, perspectives on that. And that's rapidly changed in 4 years of, wow, this is a service that actually takes things off my plate, professionalizes what we do. Accountability, streamlining, all those different things. And, again, I have probably a different vantage point now than I did as a superintendent. Think of the service that you're sort of describing and the value you bring to your clients and the clubs that you work with is ROI can be seen in so many different areas. And as the shortage of superintendents, right, as it's well documented throughout the industry, it's clear that there's not as many people that have wholesale construction renovation experience. And so a service like yours and what you guys do can be extremely valuable purely based on experience. And I'm kind of curious and this isn't a sales pitch, but I think it's a fascinating conversation around what Mazella does and doesn't do and sort of the ROI. Can you hit on a couple things that you've seen in the short time you've been in this, what that's looked like and translated?
Yeah, that's a great point. And it is kind of this, you and I have had this discussion before about the similarities of our paths and kind of pioneering a new niche. But I don't think it takes, like you said, I don't think it takes a whole lot of salesmanship to make people realize that there's value there. When I started in the late 90s, I remember the first golf course we built at the time was north of Pittsburgh. And I think it was a brand new 18-hole construction job that was $2.8 million. And I currently have three clients that are planning 18-hole renovations that are over $30 million. Now, I pointed that out recently at the Carolinas show to somebody, and their response says, well, that just means you're old. So maybe it is. Maybe that's part of it. But these are real dollars. $30 million to renovate an 18-hole golf course. And there's not one of those. There's three of them. And that's just in my portfolio. I'm sure there are many, many out there that are not. And you need someone with experience to manage that money. I mean, are you really going to, as a club owner or a board member, committee member, are you going to trust, somebody who's not been through the construction process with that type of budget? I mean, it really doesn't make any sense. You've got to have somebody who really understands the process. And you have to understand these budgets. You might talk about a golf course budget. There might be 5 or 6 budgets. There's a golf course budget. There's a fertility and a grow-in budget. There's an irrigation budget. There's a soft cost budget. There's contingencies. There's budgets for erosion control and permitting. Like, just because you've got a set of plans and a set of quantities doesn't mean that that's your project budget. Like, there are many, many outside influences on an overall project master budget. And that's where we really take control as project managers. We manage project budgets and project schedules, and they are sometimes broken into smaller pieces. But what the club is really looking for is someone to be mindful and responsible of their very large investment that they're about to make on the golf course. And we feel like we're uniquely qualified to walk in lockstep with them along the way to make sure that they are being represented and that their money's not being wasted. And I assure you that there are a lot of people who will listen to this or have opinions about whether project management is really needed, but we're specialists in it. And whoever those folks are might not have the depth of understanding that we do. And I don't think you want those people minding that type of investment. And a lot of times there are people who get trusted with these or tasked with responsibility of budget management. They don't even want it. They're like, I just want to focus on building this golf course, or I just want to focus on the design and how cool is the bunker on the right side of 6. Like, that's what they're excited about. No one gets excited about the spreadsheet that tracks the quantities, whether we're over or under a linear footage of pipe. I mean, that's kind of like not sexy, right? But that's what the committee wants to know. That's what the board wants to know. So I think we can demonstrate our ROI pretty easily there with some of those kind of conversations. So I think that kind of, it's like I mean, you find the right way to make people understand what it is that you do for them. And then I think they kind of say, okay, now I get it.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm going to cite a recent example that I've seen as well. And people may not think about this, is the accountability side, and not from a quality control aspect either. This is just purely accountability with your key stakeholders, your members, owners, whatever the case is. And to have that extra security could prevent catastrophic failure at the end of this project, when a superintendent then is really responsible, at least for, I think, what members or an owners sometimes think is superintendent's the one responsible for growing grass. But if the infrastructure and the project wasn't sequenced properly, wasn't held accountable, all those things, you're the one that's now dealing with the end product, and you're the scapegoat, right? So maybe that investment into project management, is worth it. Your thoughts on that? Because I think member expectations aren't going down, man. They're getting higher.
No.
And they're expecting more streamlined results than I think ever before.
Yeah, you make a great point there, and I'm going to just make a note so I come back to this on member expectations. But yeah, most people in this business are in this business because they're passionate about it. No one kind of finds themselves in the golf business because they took a wrong turn or something. I mean, people choose to be here, and by and large, that means they're passionate about the game, about the course, about the relationships, whatever it is. People in this business are generally pretty happy people, but they're also very overworked. I don't know really anybody in this business that feels like they've got a lot of free time on their hands. Like superintendents tirelessly with the amount of work that they do. And it's a thankless job sometimes. They've got more than they can handle. Architects with the travel and contractors trying to keep projects staffed and equipment running. Like there are no easy jobs on this side of the business. So why on earth would you decide as a club to make a $30 million investment and add more work to people who are already struggling to make things work? It doesn't make, why would you not just hire a dedicated project manager who will take ownership of all of those things that you've described and risks? And, when is the budget and schedule most important? I mean, when does it feel most important? At the end of the job. What's your superintendent doing then? He's trying to get the golf course. He's not pouring over spreadsheets and trying to wrap up final erosion control inspections with the county so that we can get released to open the golf course. So it really doesn't take a whole lot of, if you really think about it, why would you ask people who are have too much on their plate to already take more on? And then the fact that it's not something that they're used to doing doesn't make a very compelling argument. But I just quickly want to make a note about member expectations, because at some point, someone, whether it was a contractor, an architect, a club, or whatever, started executing renovation projects in half the time that we used to do them before. And that has now become like the standard. Like what used to be a 7 or 8 month project gets done in 4 now. And I think it's wonderful, but we're kind of victims of our own creation there. Members expect, they don't want to shut their golf course down. They don't want to be down for more than a year. Like they just don't want it. And then oftentimes they're willing to pay more to expand their golf season. But what that requires is more work in a compressed period of time. So the member expectation thing has totally shaped our business. And like you said, they're not expecting any less. They're paying a lot of money to be at these clubs, and they want access to their golf course, and they don't want to be disrupted by construction, and they want you to get in and get out sometimes faster than is realistic. So having a project manager on your team to champion for you and say, guys, this is not attainable. You are asking an unrealistic thing of all the people on your team. We cannot do that, I think is better received from a project manager than it is from any individual on the team. And we truly represent the owner's interests, and we don't want to see them undertake a project that's has very little chance of success because they've decided with no experience what they think the construction schedule should be. I'd rather us collectively, as with all of our disciplines, come up with something that's attainable and tell them this is how it needs to be. And I think when you deliver that message the right way, it's well received. I think they understand that. They appreciate the fact that you're speaking from a place of experience and caretaking. And I think that most of the time they'll come around. But as well as I do, there's a few clubs out there that they get to tell you what the rules are, and you better find a way to play by them.
Yeah. I don't know any of those. What are you talking about, Nick? Yes. This is a kind of an offshoot of that too. So like we were talking about alignment of expectations, right? And trying to manage those expectations. That was taught to me very early. Manage expectations, right? How do you help the superintendent as well manage those expectations? 2 reasons. Number 1, accountability, and making sure that there is accountability that's not all on the superintendent, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is a shared commitment, and how that accountability drives autonomy, because I think those 2 things work together. And what I mean by that is I've seen in my experience when a superintendent, and there is no accountability through the chain, whether that's the owner, the architect, members, contractors, superintendent, whomever, irrigation consultant, right? And when there's not accountability, then there's not real clear autonomy for people to make critical decisions and execute, because everybody's afraid to step on each other's toes.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to make a bad decision or offend somebody, but that can be eliminated from my perspective by having clear communication and accountability.
Yeah, I think managing expectations is a big challenge, probably in any industry. But I think unique to golf is a lot of times people are asked to do things that they're not prepared to do or not experts in, and they just think it's like an ancillary add-on. Well, you can handle this. And I think for me, for a superintendent, I try to involve them as much in the process as I can. I will frequently talk to my superintendent partners about things that not necessarily have any action items for them. Doesn't know mean that they need to understand why we're having a pre-construction meeting or why we're developing the erosion control plans the way that we are. I just want them to feel informed. And I think they're often relieved to hear, well, I'm just sharing this with you so you know what's going on, not because I need anything from you. Because inevitably a question will come back to them where they're if they get blindsided with it, that they'll have no idea. Well, I didn't even know there was an inspector coming today or something. So over communication is probably the most important thing with the superintendent, especially if they've not been through a renovation project before. But how that drives accountability and autonomy, I think, is it opens the passageway for free communication. I think that if you know something's going on and you heard about it one time, you might want to check in on it or say, hey, whatever happened with that? Or you might want to learn more about it. Does that mean that I can do this? Or what are the results of this meeting or this inspection mean for us going forward? Let's just talk about it, because I think that will empower anybody who hasn't been through it to give them the confidence they need to make decisions. So probably, I guess it's over communication is the short answer there. But don't be afraid to let people know what's going on their project, even if they don't need to be involved in it. I think it helps the collaborative environment. I think it helps educate people. And let's be honest, I mean, none of what we're dealing with is like rocket science. It's not something that the everyman can't quickly understand. I mean, we're all pretty smart people in the business, and it's not overly difficult. Yet the superintendent side is way more difficult. To me, I've never been a superintendent. The agronomy side scares me sometimes. Like I couldn't do what they do, but just about anybody could probably do what we do if they had the experience we had. So why not share some of that with them? You know, they'll be better off at their next club or the same club for the next project, because they'll understand the process. Talk open and freely and often. And I think that will help everybody in the process.
So you opened up a question that I was not thinking about, but as we've been going through this, one thing I've realized is there needs to be in your role, there has to be a high level of emotional intelligence and self-awareness because of the various constituents and personalities that you deal with. So how do you manage that for yourself? You know, club to club, Green's chair to Green's chair, superintendent, superintendent. That's a lot at one time. Like, you know, at least in my role, like, there's candidates. Okay, that conversation is very siloed. I can organize that. Committee, separate conversation, very siloed.
Mm-hmm.
Not all together at one time, obviously, until, you know, kind of the final ticks of the process. But situational self-awareness. Talk to me a little bit about that, because that's got to be a skill that continues to get refined.
Yeah, I've seen you deal with it firsthand, so I understand exactly kind of what you're talking about. Yeah, there are. I mean, I love the new collaborative environment we all work in, where 8 people do the work of, you know, what used to be 3. But gosh, 8 personalities are a lot harder to manage than 3. But that's probably the most rewarding part of the successful project too, is when you can, like, sometimes I have to just run interference. Like I can see somebody getting hot over something and, you know, I've got to run distraction on them and just say, all right, listen, here's how we're going to handle this situation. This is what the outcome will be. Or, you know, you've just got to be sometimes as much a, you know, psychiatrist as you are a project manager. Like, come sit down on the couch for a while. Tell me what's bothering you. Let's talk it out. We'll find a way to get back on track. Don't worry. So yeah, there's a whole lot of that. But in my opinion, like, that's the easy part. Again, I'm not on the field. Like, I like to make the analogy that my role is of a football team is as the general manager or the head coach. Like, I'm more concerned and interested in assembling a team to let them go do what they want to do, and what they're best at, than I am calling the plays, you know, on the field making audibles. You don't need me out there. You've got plenty of great people in the field between your architect, your contractor, your superintendent, your consultants. They know what they're doing if you put the right team together. Let them be great. Like, why would I get involved in that? It's more about putting the right personalities together and understanding people in this business and where their strengths and weaknesses are. I'm sure you often get candidates who you love for one client who would be a disaster for another, right? And you don't put them together. Even though the superintendent or the candidate may come to you and be like, hey, I heard about this job. I'm really excited about it. It's hard to tell them that's not the right fit for you, but it's sometimes a message you have to deliver. And it's the same thing in what I do in assembling project teams. Like, people work in different ways. And if a club has a certain expectation and there are other team members who don't historically work that way, then it's probably not a good fit for them to be together. There are a lot of personalities, and understanding everybody's perspective, what motivates them, what they're seeking through the process, and managing all that is certainly a nuance that is an important part of project management. And I think we're pretty good at it, but I think there's probably some other people who would do just fine without a project manager, and that's okay. We're not there for everybody, but we do think we can help the process. So yeah, I mean, coming back full circle, I guess, yeah, to your point about just understanding the personality, this is a huge part of it, because they will change and they will have different motives. They'll come from different places, but at the end of the day, everybody's trying to win, right? So we want a successful project. And if we can keep people focused on that, I think we'll get there.
Yeah. There's going to be a follow-up to that. So what are some of the traits that you've seen with the best projects in terms of leadership, communication, and maybe if there's a specific example? And then on the flip side, what are the traits of projects going wrong and things that you kind of see from your vantage point of why they go wrong?
Yeah, I think good question. The traits of the successful team member to me are confidence. And I think when you are working with someone who makes decisions and confident decisions because they've done their research and they're prepared, that's a trait I love. I mean, that is great. Like, I love to get together on a call with a team call, and the superintendent says, I've made a decision, this is what we're doing. And it's maybe an agronomic thing, it may be a growing practice, whatever. I love that they're confident in it. And when an architect says, this bunker needs to go here, or this tree needs to come down, and I'm confident in that, and that's going to provide you with the best design for a myriad of reasons, and I'm a specialist in this, which is why I'm making this suggestion. I love that. I think what sidetracks some projects and are indecisions, when people can't get on the same page about things. And it may be that too many opinions are being heard. And then that's something that I need to get involved in and really strip it down to who should be trusted with these decisions. So I think decisiveness and confidence is a big trait of something that makes people successful. On the counterpoint, I guess it's kind of the same, but not being prepared, not being educated, and not really knowing what decisions lie ahead, that can be problematic. And that's why you let people focus on what they do best. I mean, you don't want to make someone make a decision about something they really don't have experience in. And that's not good for the project. I'd rather go get somebody who has experience in that one particular thing and get their opinion on it. So understand that there are limitations or limits to what people can offer you. And when you see an opportunity to bring in another person who would make the project better, let them do that. I think that's better than empowering someone to make a decision that they're not prepared to make.
Oh man, that what you just said there, I think, is a key thing that I'm going to dive into just for a quick second with anybody that's listening. Is it is consistent we see, and specifically in the new world order of design, build, and construction, that it's exciting, like to be a part of seeing place from dirt to the foundations to growing in that golf course is an exciting challenge. But I also think that those that have not been exposed to that need to really do some soul searching before they jump into it. There is a lot of moving parts that are oftentimes going to be uncontrollable. Timelines, budgets. I just wrote about this in an article that's going to get published in Golf Course Industry Magazine about accountability, right? And maybe not under the governance structure of a facility and how the reporting structure is going to look like. And you don't know what you get into, right? And sometimes you sign up for something that changes. We've all had that experience. You sign up for a job, an opportunity that doesn't pan out to be that way, right? But you got to do the research. And if you don't have the reps in doing that, and being a part of that, I wouldn't put yourself at risk as a professional into that environment, which goes back to what you said earlier about if you're young in your career, go spend a year with a construction company. I mean, the construction companies are calling us, seeking out assistant project managers, helping hands, even if it's on an interim basis. So like there's opportunities plentiful right now with the boom the golf market's going into. So I think you just said a really, really key point about, confidence being one of them and having the reps behind it. And if you don't, be really careful about stepping into a situation because a course renovation in the context of bunker renovations, T renovations is very different than a design build from the very fundamentals. So I just wanted to make a comment on that.
Yeah, that's a great point. I agree with you there. The thing is that the alarming part of that is bad decisions sometimes take a while to show themselves. And that's not good, especially when we're talking about the infrastructure inside of a golf course. You might think it's an inconsequential decision because no one's really going to know and it's buried. But gosh, that could really be a bad approach. Why wouldn't you pick up the phone if you don't have the reps and call someone who does? I mean, just let's be honest. You don't want to set the club up for a potential problem 5 or 7 years down the road. Everyone's going to think when the place opens, it looks great. There's no doubt, right? But gosh, you better know that you've done your work kind of in the subgrade before everyone falls in love with what they see on top.
Yeah. I've got a last few comments questions before we get into our favorite segment, chip shots. But what or how do you measure success of a project, a partnership? Is there any sort of metrics or indicators you use, when you think about a partnership, and that partnership doesn't have to just be a full scale renovation? I think you guys also serve in other capacities and capabilities, for a club.
Yeah, I think budgets and schedules are kind of always the metric everybody points to for a measure of success. And I get it. I mean, that's what people want to focus on. Budgets and schedules, a year or two after the completion of the project aren't as important as the finished product. If it takes a little bit of extra time or a little bit of extra money, and we try to prepare our clients for that. Like, it's very hard to carry a large contingency through the end of the job. And even when you feel like you're done, even when you feel like the contractor's offsite and we're just in the grow-in phase, to tell a client, we need to still have some contingency money. They don't like that. They think it's done. They think they saved money if they didn't spend that, but you're still going to need it. And those are the things at the end of the day that will make a project successful. People will remember 5 years from now, man, what an incredible opportunity we had. We knocked it out of the park with this renovation. We're so happy with the golf course and we're set up for success in the future. They're not going to say we opened a month late or we were 3% over budget, which, I don't encourage that. That's not the model we're selling here, but let's have some perspective. And if we can build that in from day one and realize that maybe the success of this project won't be defined at the completion, it'll be defined 3 years after, it will change your perspective on how you look at that.
Yeah. Awesome. One thing I wanted to talk about is a little bit about the company and sort of the current state. What are some fun projects you're involved with? What does the future look like for Mazella Partnership?
Yeah, thank you for giving me that opportunity. So I told you I was on my own for 5 years. Over the last year, I've had help from Jason Hurwitz, who's a senior project manager with me. He's got a long, great history at top 100 clubs as a superintendent. I don't see that we really do a whole lot different. I think we've got a great roster of clients right now. We've got plenty of work we're grateful for with good projects through 2027. We still could take on a few more clients, but we're happy with what we have. We've got some really, really high-end clubs that I'm just so excited to be working with. I kind of pinch myself to think about some of the projects that I have and the architects I'm working with and the superintendents I have such admiration for to be on their team. We're just going to keep doing what we're doing. I don't intend to build, a huge empire here in the project management space. I would love to probably take on, one more person kind of in the project management role out in front, doing what Jason and I do, and then maybe building small base back in an office where we can be relieved of some of the administrative duties that we have to take on right now. But I don't really see it going much further than that. We just want to be a part of great, exciting projects with good people and see them succeed. So I feel very fortunate to say, I don't want to say I don't have plans for the future, but if I can just keep on keeping on, I'll feel very lucky. So that's kind of the benefit of this business is I've got a very low overhead. It's not like we have a lot of expenses to do what we do. We can share that with the clubs that we work with. And man, if I could do this again in 5 years and tell you I've just been happy doing the same thing, that'd be great. I'd love that.
Well, you kind of just hit on what your professional goals, are in the short term, but do you see any challenges for golf courses that maybe we haven't touched on that are kind of out in front, maybe keep you up a little bit at night thinking about and how you're kind of trying to prepare for them and as a company to address some of those future challenges?
Yeah, I feel like we're pretty much in the midst of a tumble cycle right now with the way people are attacking projects. We still have conventional design, bid, lump sum type of contracts, but we have a lot of unit cost contracts with design build and one-off teams that collaborate on things. I think there's a high degree of uncertainty about how the future looks 5 years from now in this space, but that's okay. I don't know that we need to have there's room for both models to work, but they're populated by very different people. And I do worry sometimes that the artistry and the kind of the free spirit of the design build approach and the nomadic lifestyle of that. And some of that is producing unbelievable design right now. And architecture is fantastic at a high point with new golf course design. I do wonder if it's maybe skin deep at times and that there's not the experience of, people who've been in this business a long, long time, ensuring that we're building sustainable golf courses and not just eye candy. So, I think I haven't seen any instances of that. I'm not suggesting that, but I do worry about that. Like, what if someone just goes out there and says, man, what a great idea. What a great piece of land. I'm going to go build this really cool looking, piece of architecture. And they do. And 3 years from now, you can't keep grass on it. It doesn't drain. The irrigation system's broken because no one really understood how important all of that infrastructure was. So doesn't keep me up at night by any means, but I do find myself thinking about whether we're running a little too fast on some of these things and not paying attention to the details.
This was, as you were talking about that, I had a thought come across my head and kind of curious. We've been talking about big scale renovation work, right? But there's also, I think that there's also this fine balance of strategic improvements that might not at the capacity or speed at which, you're doing everything, but you might be doing smaller little improvements. Do you see your guys' kind of involvement in that and helping guide or recommend or have any play in that market as well versus just the big, we've been talking quite a bit about like big scale renovations. How about more kind of small condensed improvements?
Yeah, I think that's still out there. I mean, people are still doing, a $600,000 bunker renovation. We're not all $30 million blow ups. And there's a lot of need out there for guidance and for us to assist those clients. And, we're just as happy to do that. We have some really kind of, we've got a couple clients in the public sector, which we actually really like helping. Trust me, there's no money in that. But when you've got a state park golf course that's got bad greens and they want to rebuild it and they have very limited funds, I mean, it's fun to help those projects too. So we do get involved, but I'm not exactly sure where that'll go in the future, but I think it could be fun.
I always like to ask this question for different service providers, but if you had to identify the perfect client for you, what does that look like? Can you describe that for me?
I've always been intrigued, and nothing probably gets me more excited than high level tournament golf, major championship venues. I've mentioned Quail Hollow a few times. I'm so fortunate to be there. I love the fact that they've got the PGA Championship coming up this May. I love the fact that I'll have kind of a front row seat to see the history made in the game on that side. I love the game. I don't really don't play hardly any golf ever anymore, but I love to watch it, and I love to watch major championship golf and those type of venues where planning starts 5, 7, 12 years out. I mean, that's like my dream client. Like, okay, we've got a major championship here in the next 9 years. Let's start thinking about a plan on how we're going to make this happen. Those are the things that really get me excited. So I guess historic venues with high level of competition played upon them, I think would probably be my sweet spot. But I get a lot of enjoyment from clients that are everything that are not anything that I just described. So it's hard. I don't know that I've really got one, but I guess I'd be partial to that approach.
Yeah. Well, you're passionate about golf. You're passionate about people that care about golf and, want to do things at a high level. Let's jump into my last section called chip shots. Hopefully a more lighthearted, fun. I didn't prep you on this, so it should be.
No, I'm kind of nervous.
All right. So if you had to pick a favorite foursome, who would it be with and where are you playing at?
Gosh, who would it be? The go-to here would be kind of your family members. I didn't really wasn't exposed to golf till I got late into high school and college. So I would say I'd love to take my dad and my brother out there, but they'd probably be miserable because they don't love golf the way I do. I think Jason, my current business partner, I think he'd be a lot of fun. He's got a lot of great perspective. I'd love to take him along wherever we could go. I'd have to go to Scotland. I'd have to say St. Andrews, and I would have to say, I'm not big on the historical figure thing. I like kind of keeping with people from the current time and people that I already have relationships with. So, gosh, I don't know. Do I have to answer this? Do I have to fill out my foursome?
No, that's fine. Three's good. Stick around. I'll tag along as the fourth. So
Yeah, come on. You're welcome.
that's it. Favorite food that you've had at a halfway house or a clubhouse?
Favorite food at a halfway house or a clubhouse? Gosh, I'm failing the chip shot segment here pretty badly. I don't know. I'm gonna have to punt on that one. That you stumped me with that. Nothing comes to mind, so I guess that means I haven't had anything stellar. Maybe there should. I've heard great stories about places with epic halfway houses and food there. I just never been to them, so maybe I need to get out more.
Yeah. Well, here's a softball for you. What's your favorite technology or tool that you use on the job?
Okay, I can answer that one. I've got a little it's a sub-meter Trimble GPS unit that I'm able to measure quantities with. It's really handy. It's called a Trimble Catalyst. I connect to it Bluetooth with an app on the phone and kind of dial in mapping, and it's all real time. So that's kind of my favorite little quick trick in the field to measure up quantities and do cost estimates for a client or verify quantities from a contractor or something. So that's my quick little go-to tool.
Who's your favorite classic architect?
Age. I'd say Rayner. I'm pretty fortunate to have a few Rayner clients right now at the Country Club of Charleston and Everglades Club in Palm Beach. So really enjoy kind of working on that work. I would say he's my favorite.
Last question for you. So the holidays are coming up, and by the time the podcast releases, we'll be closer to Christmas. If there was one thing Santa could bring to you to help you in your current job or a future project, what would it be?
Well, there's a lot of things he could bring me that wouldn't help me at all with my current job or career, but I'd be really happy to receive them. I think it would be a little bit of help. I think we're at a position where he would send me someone that would help us lighten the load a little bit. I think it would be personality. I'm way more concerned about how I interact with a person and their personality than I am their skills. I think we can teach what we can teach, what we do to just about anybody. But if he could send me somebody who is interested in this and is eager to get out and help us shoulder some of the workload we have, that I'd go with that. So maybe an elf. How about that? If you could leave in an elf behind for me, that'd be perfect.
There you go. So anybody that's listening, that's looking for a career transition into the project management world, there's your recruiting.
There you go.
Reach out to Nick and have a conversation. So
They can reach out to you first, Tyler, and then you can get in touch with me.
Exactly. Um, all right. So if people want to know a little bit about you, where can they find you and give you, I want to give you some parting shots, things maybe we didn't cover that, you think would be valuable for our audience.
Yeah, I think the easiest way is on my website, mazellapartnership.com. You'll find some real high level information there and an easy way to get a hold of me. So that's good. I always love, talking to prospective clients or just helping people answer some questions. I mean, you'd be surprised how many times I get the question, like, no one wants to hire me. They just need a little bit of help. Like, how much does it cost to renovate a bunker? I'm happy to just, for today, use $8 a square foot. Or if you're going to have liners, use $9 a square foot or something, like always happy to do that kind of stuff. And I get a lot of those types of questions. So you can get me there on the website. And then I think parting shot wise, I just had a talk recently with some folks here in the Carolinas, and it's such an exciting time to be in this business and to see all the great things that are happening. I've been around long enough to see some of the highs and some of the lows. And I'm optimistic that we'll continue to stay on the path that we're on, developing and building high caliber golf courses and renovating them, and just stop and take some time to enjoy it. Because, it wasn't that long ago, I feel like I was combing through the internet trying to find any possible bid opportunity to sink our teeth into now. And, it's a great time to be in the business. So you should enjoy it. And like I said before, the best part of the business is the people. And I think just keep building relationships with people in the business and you'll stay pretty happy. It's been a good recipe for me. Just came out of the Carolina show, which was fantastic to see so many great people. Looking forward to the national event this year in San Diego, and really take time to be friendly with those people and help them and let them help you. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, Nick, I appreciate you jumping on the show and look forward to seeing you in San Diego. And appreciate all your words of wisdom.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Tyler. Appreciated it, and look forward to seeing you as well. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Leadership on the Links. For more leadership insights and industry expertise, connect with us at bloomgolfpartners.com or follow us on social media sites LinkedIn and Instagram. If you enjoyed this episode of Leadership on the Links, we'd be thrilled if you'd leave a review or share it with someone who you know would get some value. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to stay updated. Thanks for joining us today.